Welcome to the Well Off Podcast, where the goal is to motivate, inspire, and share success principles. I'm your host, George Masri. Thanks for tuning in. Today I interviewed Liza Rogers, who's a real estate investor, a property developer, and the founder of the Women's Real Estate Network, a British Columbia-based group that focuses on creating community and collaboration. She has 25 years of experience in global tourism and events, including management of international vacation properties. And on this episode, we talked about how she became an accidental real estate investor. We broke down a recent purchase of an 8-unit building she bought with her colleagues in Victoria, BC, the unique structure and the creative financing behind that acquisition, the importance of having a team around you. So I think for those of you that want to learn about different strategies to create deals, to make deals happen, this is a really good episode for you. I know you're going to enjoy it. And if you do, make sure to share this with a friend or family member. Let everyone know about this, because I think we can all benefit from having more knowledge and growing our wealth. And then also leave us a 5-star review on the Apple Podcast platform. And then finally, if you want to connect with me to talk about some apartment building opportunities in Southern Ontario, make sure to reach out by visiting welloff.ca, and you can book a call there, or you can reach out to me on Instagram, welloffx. We've got some really cool opportunities coming up, and we'd love to chat with you about them. So there you go. Enjoy the episode. All right, I'm here with Liza Rogers. Liza, it's the first time we chat. I appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thanks, George. It's really nice to be here.
Yeah, great. So I'd like to start off by asking you about your childhood. So if you want to tell me one or two things you remember, and just describe to us what it was like growing up.
Oh, that's a fun question. So my childhood. It's interesting because I'm such an ocean fanatic. And so one of the things that I really, really remember strongly about my childhood is playing in the waves with my mom in Florida. And I think that memory gave me one of my early loves for travel and the ocean. And that for me now is just such a driving factor for who I am and why I do what I do, because I want to spend lots more time traveling in the ocean. And I think another key part of my childhood was having a single mom, watching a single mom on a hairdresser's salary, try to raise 2 daughters. And every time she was able to kind of improve her status with a better pay or, better situation, we moved. So I moved a lot as a kid and have continued to move a lot as an adult. And that makes it easy when you're a real estate investor, because you sometimes have to live in your properties. And so there you go. You got to be ready to move all the time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, you've got to be ready to just adjust to a lot of different things as an investor.
Exactly.
So tell me a bit about how you came to become an investor.
So as we were chatting a little bit earlier, it was quite by accident. I had returned from living in Australia for a while, where I had gone over to partner with a person, and we were going to buy a couple of small boutique hotels and turn them into youth hostels. Part of the traveling thing for me, and having a background in tourism and events. And then that didn't quite go to plan, so I moved to Victoria, BC, and I hadn't lived in Victoria before. And I had been studying real estate before I went to Australia from a kind of a general level. But when I got back from Australia and really settled into Victoria, I realized that, especially in an expensive market like Victoria, we know Victoria, Vancouver, Toronto, expensive housing markets, low vacancy rates. I realized that if I was going to ever be able to retire, I needed to get into the real estate market and at least get my own property going. But there was this idea that whatever I bought, I wanted to be able to rent it out and have some income. And so I just really dove into real estate education and just got as much as I possibly could and learned from all of the different opportunities that we have to learn from across Canada and in the US. And as I was learning, I realized that so many women just weren't in the real estate conversation. And so as I was learning, I was building partnerships and also trying to get women encouraged to start investing in real estate. And here I am 7 years later. We have ran the Women's Real Estate Network, and we have a club of women who are investing solo and collaboratively. And we just bought an 8-unit apartment building right across the street from the beach in Victoria. and the painters just arrived this morning to start painting one of the units, and we call it our BFF mansion. So we're getting groups of people together to buy their own places and actually have our own retirement homes. So we're going to do that around the world. So
Awesome.
quite by accident, really. And now here we are.
Yeah, that's very cool. I think you're right about women investors. We're starting to see more and more, like a lot of the clubs that I'm a member of, there are some strong female investors there. Some are like way more capable and have accomplished a lot more than a lot of men have. So what is it what was your goal when you started Ren?
So the goal when I started Ren, I mean, there are a couple things. First of all, as I mentioned, being raised by a single mom and watching my mom's friends going into retirement homes, seeing that so many women in Canada are outliving. I mean, this is happening around the world, but women are outliving their partners. Here's a shocking statistic: the average age of a widow in Canada is 56 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So that when
Yeah.
you just think about that, as a woman, you very well, whether you're in a partnership or not, are going to at some point in your life be responsible for your own finances solely. And you're going to have to make a life for yourself. And if
Yeah.
you're trying to do that on your own, it's pretty hard. Whether you're a man or a woman, it can be challenging. So women love to collaborate. And so as I was building Ren, it was a multi-purpose reason. It was selfish reasons. I want to build a community of people that I want to travel and retire with.
Yeah.
One of the things that we talk about with real estate, it's not about the real estate, it's about the lifestyle. And that's very much a key of the women who join Ren. And we have enlightened men as well. But it's about the lifestyle that real estate can provide. So Ren is all about, how do we get our groups of women together so that we're not going into a retirement home? We're buying or building our own, and we're creating our own community. And we're creating a community of people who are smart and savvy and sophisticated and understand the power of real estate and understand how it can really add to their lifestyle. And then the other part of it was I just really felt that women really needed to learn some of these things. I was meeting women at both ages, both ends of the age spectrum, some very young women, between 20 and 30, who'd never even spoken to a banker before. And then women at the older spectrum who their husbands had looked after their finances their whole lives, and they had no credit history of their own. And realized that, we really need to start getting women much more educated about real estate investing, because they do participate fully when they're confident, and they make really good decisions. Like the data's shown that they actually make really good decisions.
Well, do you find that that's more of an issue with maybe like older generations? Do you think that women today, the ones that are in their 20s and 30s, are more understanding of having a credit score and having their own finances and having their own income and that sort of thing?
I think there's definitely that understanding, but then there's also the action that's behind that, right? So, we don't teach it in schools. And so where do people get this information from? And so many people still don't like to talk about money. I mean, we talk about money every day. We talk about, what are we spending? What are we making? What's coming in? What's going out? Who needs to borrow some money because they're over leveraged in something for a little while?
Yeah.
And so we talk casually about money all the time. It's just, it's kind of like the weather. When you're a real estate investor, you're talking about property and money and the weather all the time. So as much as we know that young people in general are getting more exposure to it, it's the confidence to take the action to actually either get in a room or get online and make it a priority, right? It's that, how do you make your future a priority when there's so many shiny things that are going on around us that might be just more fun in the immediate minute?
Yeah.
And those are the kinds of lessons that, when I think about my traveling lifestyle, if I had bought a house when I worked at Van City and when I was in my early 20s, I could have had that asset that would have paid for the future that I'm having now. And it would have already been a great property or two. But I just didn't have the confidence, the knowledge, the network, the team, and all of the things that you need to build that. Basically, confidence is the key word, and that mindset and mentality to get you ready to actually dive into, what can be one of the biggest investments of your life, if not the biggest, and one of the most
Yeah.
gratifying and challenging and rewarding careers, lifestyles that propels you forward in so many different ways.
Hmm. Yeah. And let's say you have a woman that's interested in learning more, that wants to invest, currently doesn't invest. What would be the procedure? What steps would you take to help them if they're interested in joining your club?
Absolutely. So whether it's my club or someone else's, I think there's a couple of key things, and this goes for the men as well. Find a group of people that are doing the same thing that you're doing, right? It's so much about the network, because now that we've opened up from COVID, one of the things that we've realized is we don't want to be alone. We don't want to be isolated. And so the virtual thing was great and still is great. I mean, look at what we can do now. You're in Toronto, I'm here,
Hmm.
and we're able to have these great conversations and share it with the world. But a key thing now is get out and actually meet people and build relationships and surround yourself with people who are going to support you in your journey. And that goes for real estate, life, everything. So with real estate in particular, there are so many great networks, and a lot of them are free. A lot of them have a membership fee. A lot of them have programs that you can take. So there's a couple of key ideas there. Find go to a few different opportunities where you're meeting people and you're talking to people, and if people are welcoming and see you standing there by yourself and say, hey, don't stand there on your own, come and join us. So if you're feeling
Hmm.
supported, then those might be the right groups for you. But really, it really is about building relationships. So find a free group, then join a group. As soon as you put money on the table, you're immediately more invested, because you've made a payment for something, and so you're going to take some more action.
Yeah. Yeah,
Buying a
for
ticket
sure.
for an event, even if it's $10, chances are you're going to show up. I mean, how many people sign up for free things and then never show up? So
Hmm.
it's really getting out there, meeting people, finding a group of people who are like-minded. With someone like with a group like Ren, a lot of us love to travel. We want to spend 3 months of the year traveling. So we naturally attract lots of people who want that lifestyle and want to
Yeah.
be in Portugal for a couple months and Mexico for a couple months. And we've got lots of women right now who are in Portugal looking at properties. So that's that's the key thing. And then from there, then you can start to build your real estate team, your team of
Yeah.
professionals. And we'll probably get into that, but I
Hmm.
won't jump too
Yeah.
far
No,
ahead.
that's very important. Like you said, just surrounding yourself with people. It's the last couple of years. Well, let's say the last 2 years, it's been pretty difficult because a lot of people have had to do things on their own. And once you're isolated, it's a lot harder to accomplish things. It's so much easier when you see others that are doing it. It's kind of like you feed off their energy.
Exactly.
I know a lot of times when I leave from a real estate meeting or a meetup of some sort, I just feel energized. And I feel like when I go out there and buy more real estate or just get stuff done. So that's the benefit of being around others that are accomplishing
Yeah,
things.
exactly. I
Uh,
always say be inspired and be inspiring, right? So
mhm.
so be a person in the room who's inquisitive and curious, and then allow yourself to ask questions of people who you're inspired by, because they're not going, if you're in the room with the right people, they're not going to make you feel uncomfortable about the things that you
Yeah.
don't know. They're going to support you in your growth.
Yeah. And that's the thing about being part of different investment clubs. You're going to be in a room with people who have accomplished a lot more than you have, that have been investing for a lot longer. And then there's going to be people that can learn from you because you've spent the time to learn and grow and whatever else.
And so many, on that note as well, so many new technologies. Like, you take the younger generation, for example, right? I mean, I know I need to work on my Instagram account, so
Hmm.
there are young people who are going to bring things to the table that are going to help with building the network and the brand. And so
Yeah,
everybody's got something that they can bring to the table.
for sure. Let's talk a little bit about that 8 unit building you mentioned. Can you tell us how that came together? Is this something you've been working on for a long time, or did you just decide to dive into an 8 unit building?
Yeah, so it's kind of a combination of things. As I mentioned, with Ren, part of the idea is that I wanted to have a community. I wanted to have um, a future retirement home. And if COVID, cemented anything for me, it's that there's no bloody way I'm going into a retirement home that's run by a private entity or government, right?
Hmm.
So that was a big thing for me. And even though I'm, probably nowhere near retiring, I want to you get excuse me, you get a place now, you're going to get it at today's dollars, which we know real estate over, 10, 15 years is just going to keep going up. So I've been looking at properties for a while. And it's funny, this one that we're in, I actually looked at it about 6 years ago. It came on the market 6 years ago at likely half the price that we paid for it today. But six
Yeah.
years ago, I didn't have the network. I didn't have the people that had the confidence and the trust in what we were doing, and we just didn't know as many people as we do now. And so with this particular building, one of my business partners, Stefan, sent me the listing and said, hey, take a look at this, because we're always looking at unique and interesting things. And I said, okay, that's,
Hmm.
we're ready now. You need to get it under contract. And he's like, seriously? I'm like, yep, put an offer on it. Let's tie it up. So we got
Hmm.
it under contract immediately. And then we just started working through the due diligence process. And it was an interesting time because we put this baby under contract in April. And so a lot has happened since
Hmm.
April, right?
Yep.
Interest rates
Yep.
have gone up, things have gotten more
Yep.
challenging. And so there were a lot of growing pains with this. But there were a
Hmm.
few key things that we looked at. So when we were getting the group of people together, we wanted people who were going to be owner occupiers, because it's an 8-unit apartment building. And I'm not
Hmm.
sure, if everybody in Canada knows how difficult it is to move tenants along in BC, but
Yeah.
it's almost impossible. And
Hmm.
so you need to be very cautious about what you're doing with your property. And so with an 8-unit apartment building, with us having owner occupiers, it's like setting up our own co-housing situation. So we've got
Hmm.
this co-housing situation, and we're living in here as owner occupiers. And so then what you do is you look at comparables. So if I was going to go and buy a condominium on my own and pay strata fees, a comparable one bedroom, would be, let's say, on the low end, $300,000, and on the higher end, 600,000. And all
Hmm.
you own is the building. You don't actually own the land. So with this, it's 4 1 bedrooms and 4 2 bedrooms, and so basically each door ends up costing about $450,000. But we
Hmm.
also own 15,000 square feet of land that is right across the street from the beach on a corner.
Right.
So the value
Right.
of the land is, over the long run, is probably going to be actually worth more than the building. So from
Hmm.
that perspective, it makes it really interesting to look at and say, okay, so we've got an 8-unit building, we're going to owner occupy it, and we own the land, and as partners, we're going to buy it as a corporation. So you purchase this
Cool.
as a corporation. You work with your lawyers, you work with your
Hmm.
accountants, you make sure that your paperwork is drawn up correctly, so that everything's done right. And then before you know it, you've got a wonderful apartment building that you're going to be owning probably for a very, very long time. And you're surrounded with a group of people who you love hanging out with and who, are working together on the building. And so it's just been absolutely wonderful from that perspective. And so
Awesome.
now
That's
we've
very
got
cool.
some stabilizing to do. And yes, we do, we will be evicting tenants, which is hard, because we are moving in as owner occupiers, and you have to
Hmm.
work through that process. And so we're working with a property manager, and we're trying to help our tenants find property. And we also need to encourage everybody to build more rental units, because we just don't quite
Yeah.
have enough yet. So that's kind of
Exactly.
part of the thing as well. If you can get into a property, do it.
Hmm.
And if you've got tenants that you need to move on, just try to do it in as kind a way as you possibly can.
Yeah. I've interviewed a lot of people on the show, and this is the first time I ever hear of anyone doing what you're doing, which is really cool. Very unique strategy, and I think it's there's a lot of moving parts here because you've got to get, I would assume, 8 people at least that are willing to move into this building. So you're looking for like a very specific type of
Mm-hmm.
investor. Was it difficult to get this deal to come together, or was it something that happened pretty easily because of the network that you have?
Yeah, well, so we have a core of 5 people who, right from the get go, they were in, right. So for many, many different reasons, they were fully on board. And so when it came to subject removal time, we had a good conversation, and we said, can we do this with just the 5 of us? because we can add investors along the way if we need to. And,
Hmm.
we've got tenants in here that are paying rent. So it's not like, everybody's
Hmm.
got to be booted out to let us, let everybody in. So right now we're actually doing this with 5. We have lots of other people that are interested, and, it's about fit, and fit for us and fit for them.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it is a little bit of a niche, but I think it's going to start growing. And I think there's a number of reasons for that. There is the whole, what did we miss during COVID? We missed community. What's great about buying an apartment building together? Economy of scale and instant
Hmm.
community. And then
Yeah.
in terms of the logistics of it, and the strategy, it's just paperwork, right? I mean, the same thing goes into buying a house. You look at contracts. You figure out what your renovations are. You figure out what your budget is. You figure out what your income's going to be if it's a
Hmm.
rental property, and you figure out your exit strategy. So whether
Yeah.
you're doing a house, an apartment building, and tonight we're presenting on our cash flow crunch, which we do the first Wednesday of every month, a little 18 pad RV park in the Kootenays. So
Yeah.
all of them have very similar moving parts, and it's just economies of scale. And it's finding the people who are going to be your partners in particular projects. So we got
Hmm.
super lucky with this. A big part of it is the network that we attract. They want the same thing. So we want to be here 6 months of the year. We want to be traveling 6 months of the year, and we can rent this thing out to a movie studio. It looks like a little 1950s hotel, which we're really going to capitalize on when we renovate it. So we'll be
Awesome.
renting it out to Netflix or something, and it'll make
Hmm.
a great second income for us. So it's looking at all of those moving parts, and the big picture. I love looking at the big picture and seeing what all of the possibilities are. And there are always going to be people who are going to be excited to join you in that vision. You just have to find the right people. So the
Yeah,
RV
for
parks
sure.
are growing. The interest in RV parks is growing a lot too. So that's a whole other niche that's really opening up.
Yeah, I love that. You took the concept that people used to do, let's say, I don't know, I've seen a lot of people in the past where they'll partner with their brother and their sister in law or whatever. 3 people come together, they buy a house and they rent it out. But you did it on a bigger
Yeah,
scale.
exactly.
So it's a
Yeah,
very cool
yeah.
strategy and definitely a niche and something you can probably scale and continue to do.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that we joke about is, we'll have this property here, and we'll have another one like it in Portugal, and another one in Mexico. And,
Hmm.
if certain owners have one property and certain owners have another, it's like our own personal timeshare that we've set up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
A bit earlier on the call or on the recording, you mentioned the importance of having a team.
Yes,
Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
absolutely. So, one of the things that I like to talk about, and that you hear me say a lot, is that I am not a real estate expert. Really, when it comes to it, I know very little about real estate. Really, like,
Hmm.
I'm very honest about that. My gift is facilitating, building networks, getting people together, being the linchpin, being the connector. All of those kinds of things are the things that I do and love to do.
Hmm.
And so I use that gift to attract the right people into the network and the team. And I find really great people to be on my team. So the
Hmm.
realtors, the lawyers, the accountants, people in different geographic areas, mortgage brokers, private
Yeah.
lenders, commercial lenders. So all of those different. Can you guys hear that hammering? By the way, there's someone doing some massive hammering right now.
No, I don't really
Okay,
hear it actually,
sorry
but
about that. It was distracting me.
that's okay.
So yeah, so it's such a big part of building a team is such a big part of who you are going to be as a real estate investor, how you're going to play, where you're going to play. I mean, right now we have a really good team up in Campbell River, and so we've got a good team of people in Campbell River, and we've got a property that we bought in Campbell River. We wouldn't have bought a property in Campbell River if we didn't have the team already that supported that.
Hmm.
Of course, in
Yeah.
Victoria, we've got a great team, so we can do property in Victoria, even though it's a fairly expensive market, because we can find the ways around the things that might otherwise slow us down.
Hmm. Yeah, it seems like in every market, regardless of the price, there's a way to make things work. It's just a
Absolutely.
matter of being creative sometimes. Sometimes you just have to come up with a way to add income or to reduce expenses or whatever. And if you have enough capital, generally you can make it work.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't do 80% loan to value. Maybe you got to put a little bit more down to make the numbers work.
Yeah, and with this building, for example, like going back to the 8 unit, I mean, this is cash heavy up front because it's a unique
Mhm.
property. It's not something that we just went to the bank and say, hey, there's a group of us that want to buy a property together, and the banks go, oh, we don't know how to do that. So we actually did all of
Mhm.
this with private money up front. So we've got a
Mm.
private loan for a year, and we're actually going through the second phase of our refinance. We're going through the CMHC MLI Select program. So,
Cool. Cool.
again, part of it is when you have a team, many of your team members are going to have access to all of these amazing programs that the general public doesn't
Mhm.
know about. So there's so
Yeah.
many opportunities out there. I mean, if you're a woman, if you're part of the LGBTQ community, if you are Indigenous, there's lots of, if you're a senior citizen, there's lots of opportunities to get into programs that are geared towards you and your housing needs. And that goes for rentals as well, right? I mean, a lot of people that are going to continue as renters don't access all of the government programs that are provided for renters to help
Mhm.
them in these economies. So your team is
Sure.
so important because they have all of the knowledge that you don't need to have. I don't need to be a good accountant. I need to have a good accountant on my team.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
need to make sure that I have my shoebox with my receipts full.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that on a meeting this morning,
Mhm.
and you've got to be responsible to the people on your team. You have to be accountable to the people on your team. But if you have a good
Yeah.
team, oh my gosh, the places you can go, unbelievable, amazing. Yeah.
Mhm. You mentioned financing a little bit. What's that going to be like? Because you have so many different people involved in this, and I'm assuming you don't have a limited partnership. I'm assuming it's maybe like a joint venture or something of that sort.
It
How complicated is it getting financing in that situation?
Yeah, so it's all very different, right? So with every property, it could be different partners. So I have a couple of core partners that I partner with a number of properties on, but everything is its own entity. And so
Just to confirm, it's not a general partnership. It's more of a joint venture
this
type of
one
thing.
on the 8 unit, for example, is a joint venture with a bear trust. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
But one of our other properties is a joint venture, and one of our other properties is we call it the gold standard because we had a number of investors coming in, was the GPLP structure, so general
Okay.
partnership, limited
Yeah.
partnership structure. So the structure again really always depends on what the property is, who's on the team,
Hmm.
what the investment's going to be, what your legal and accounting team say is best for this particular situation. Depending on the exit strategy, depending on how many people are going to be involved, those are the things that you work through with your lawyers and your accountants. And then in terms of financing, when you have got a good product, a good team, you've done, a good cash flow projection and pro formas, and you've got a good exit strategy, private lenders are going to line up to give you money. I mean, we got our
Hmm.
private loan for this place at 6.95%,
Wow,
right?
that's like the going rate today
Right,
for
which
a
is
fixed mortgage,
yeah.
pretty
And
much.
so we got
Yeah.
that from private lenders, and we had
Yeah.
four
Yeah.
private lenders who were willing to lend on this, just this one property. So one of my colleagues, two things that she taught me: your first $10,000 is the hardest thing to raise. Your first million is actually pretty easy. And it was
Hmm.
true.
Yeah.
When it came to raising 10 grand when I was first getting started, I could barely scrape it together. And now
Hmm.
I can raise $1 million with a few phone calls.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it can actually happen really quickly. And that again
Yeah.
is, the network, the trust, the credibility that you have, and the fact that you learn to put the pieces of the puzzle together so that when you present it to an investor or a financer, it makes sense, right? And all
Hmm.
they're going to say is yes or no. And so yeah,
Yeah.
getting a private loan on an 8 unit apartment building for 6.95% for a year, fantastic, because and the numbers work, right? So
Yeah.
the
For
the
sure.
other thing with that is, sometimes you have to pay 10, 12, or 14%, and people freak out
Mm-hmm.
about that. But if the numbers work, it's not a big deal. And if it's short
Mm-hmm.
term, it doesn't add up to much in the long run. So, again, with this apartment building, we're looking at holding this for 10 or 20 years. So if we had to pay an extra $10,000 or $20,000 interest up front over the first year or two between 5
Mm-hmm.
investors or 8 people, with tenants that are covering the mortgage, and then ourselves that are paying our own mortgage down and then renting it out when we go away, that
Mm-hmm.
money becomes like, it's gone. It's
Yeah.
insignificant
Yeah.
amount when you end up owning a building that's worth $5 or $6 or $8 million. It's
Mm-hmm.
just larger numbers. So sometimes, people nickel and dime over the few $1,000s of interest, but you've got to look at the long game, because if you miss that
Sure.
opportunity because you're scared of paying an extra interest rate, you could be missing out on something that's going to help you build your future. And the interest rates in the 80s got up to 22%, and that's where all
Yeah.
of the equity came from that our baby boomer generation has now. So they
Mm-hmm.
got, so many people got through that, and now they have multi-million-dollar homes that are setting themselves up for their own retirement, and they're helping their kids. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
100%. Um, so to some of the people that are listening, they might be newer investors, or they may not have done some of the things that you've done. What would be your advice to someone who's starting out, or who's interested in accomplishing the type of things that you've accomplished?
Yeah, so and I mean, my story is just like, I love to say, if I can do it, anyone can, right? Because I come from a tourism and event background, not a real estate background, and I
Mm-hmm.
traveled a lot, and I have a small family, and it's like, so if I can do it, anyone can. And so the key thing is, get as much free education as you can, because it's all out there. You just have to spend the time. Take some kind of action, right? Whether that's attending a networking event, going to a weekend conference and just getting, what we call the fire hose of information,
Mm-hmm.
and find a group of people who are doing it. Because if you can get into a
Yeah.
room, and one of the things I say is, don't be afraid to be the dumbest person in the room, right? Like if you're in a room where everybody in the room is smarter than you, you're going to learn a lot. If you're the smartest
Mm-hmm.
person in the room, you're in the wrong room, because you're
Mm-hmm.
not going to learn anything. So
Well, unless your goal is to help others when
exactly,
you're there.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
you're starting out, you really want to put yourself out there, and be vulnerable, right? And that's where I think, having some of the women join this, part of providing a network for women is, a lot of women were really afraid to look stupid in front of the men, right?
Yeah.
And so having a place where they feel safe and they can ask questions that they think maybe they should know the answer to, but then, a few weeks with us and they're like, I don't care anymore. I don't like, we can talk about anything and I don't feel like I'm being
Mm-hmm.
judged. So,
Yeah.
that all comes out, as you find the right network of people to grow with. But yeah, get as much free education. Read, right? Read books, right? I was mentioning to you that we had written a book
Mm-hmm.
with 10 women from across Canada. All of us were very, ordinary. The book's called From Ordinary to Extraordinary. All of us considered ourselves very ordinary people who just looked at real estate as an opportunity to make a huge change in our lifestyle. And you
Mm-hmm.
have to be prepared to do the work. Like, I think one of the key things we're seeing right now, nobody wants to do any work.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
It's hard work, and you
Yeah.
have to commit to it, and you can't give up when you're 3 feet from gold. So many people drop their business idea or their entrepreneurial ideas or their real estate ideas too early, because they just haven't got enough grit or gumption to just push it as far as they can, to really see it pay off. So you got to stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long game. I've been in it now for
Yeah.
7 years, and I'm just starting to really see the payoffs, right? But it's taken a long
Mm-hmm.
time to get here. And
Yeah.
and some of the payoffs, the early payoffs, were much different than the financial payoffs that we'll be seeing now. But you got to take action, find a group of like-minded people, and don't give up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing that I'm starting to notice more and more is that, specifically in with real estate investing, this probably applies to other things as well. If you have the courage and the desire to do something, then that usually takes you a very long way. Like,
Absolutely.
don't be afraid of looking stupid or of aiming for something too big. Like if you just ask for something, a lot of times other investors will admire your desire and they will help you along the way.
Exactly. Yep. And that was one of the first
Yeah.
things I learned, right? And I learned that a long time ago. If you want something in the world, you got to ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned your book. How do people get your book?
Yeah, so it's we're really proud of it. We've got 10 women from across Canada that contributed, and all very, very different. And it reached #1 on Amazon in 11 categories when we released it. So we
Cool.
were really
Cool.
proud of
Awesome.
that. The easiest
Yep.
way to get it is actually on our website. So we have hard copy books and the PDFs,
Mm-hmm.
of course. And of course, you can also go to Amazon, and it's called From Ordinary to Extraordinary. And you'll see it on Amazon, and you can download it there. And if you'd like a copy, we can mail it out for you easily. So yeah, it's a good read, and we've
Okay,
got lots
great.
of great feedback from it. And we've had women of all ages read it, and everybody resonates with a different story because they're all so very unique.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for somebody who's interested in reaching out to you, what would be the best way to do
Yeah,
that?
that's probably a good thing to know, hey? So we have a super
Yep.
easy website. It's ren.club. So that's WREN.CLUB. No
Mm-hmm.
.com, just ren.club, and everything is on there. There's a way to sign up for our newsletter. There's the book. There's information on membership. There's some of the opportunities that we have going on right now. And of course, you can email us as well. So ren.club will give you all of the information, and I look forward to seeing who comes from the show.
Sounds good. Well, Liza, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I hope that you've inspired others, because I think what you've accomplished and what you're continuing to accomplish is very cool. And I look forward to staying in touch.
Thanks, George. It was really great to talk to you, and all the best for you as well. You're doing great things too. So let's keep pushing each other forward.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for listening to this episode. Your support is truly appreciated. And if you can share this with a friend or family member that might benefit from the information, remember, our goal is to motivate and inspire others to take action and to build wealth and to become well off. Enjoy the rest of your day.